Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening and welcome to the March 11th edition of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And we have another amazing show for you this week. If you get a chance, go on our Facebook page. Today I posted some of the milestones that are a reflection of this show, that you may not know all of them. So I kind of put all the major milestones together in one post, including the fact that we've had over 700 guests and that we celebrated our 200th show on February 4th. So our 200th episode. So, and there's some other milestones. It's amazing. A lot of people now everybody's trying to do a podcast. It's like the thing to do now, but we've been around since July of 2020. So we are not new to the game, and we've been consistently here bringing you the best in African American literature.
What she meant to say, is not new to the game. We're true to the game.
Okay, well, thank you for that correction. I meant all of it. We're experienced at this. We've been bringing you quality content and lots of it. So we're actually in the process of doing some shorts for many of our interviews that we'll put on our YouTube channel. So I have one more 30 seconds of announcements. One is that the registration for the festival is open. We're at 45% on sell through. The last day for the early bird rate is March 31st. So if you want to get in at the lowest rate, register. If you want to be a vendor, register by then. Also, the Black Authors Matter TV Awards, that voting process starts Monday the 17th. So you'll be, and it's a wide window for like 3 weeks. You can vote for your favorites, and then we select the finalists in 5 in each category. I think it's 15 categories this year, something like that. And also the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards process is ongoing.
I was just telling somebody about the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards, and I was talking about just the amount of talent that goes into each and every book that enters this contest. I love looking at them. The colors are vibrant, the messages are strong, and I love the fact that many of the authors still treat the kids like they're kids. You know, some messages are heavy, but they're not so heavy to where a child is not going to understand it. We still remember that kids just want to have fun. They don't always want to be preached to.
Right. And they will have the burdens of the world on their shoulders soon enough. They don't need them as children. So it is some very high quality work out there. So the last 3 authors on this show tonight are all children's authors. One of them is one of the winners of the last year's Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards. So we're going to be bringing on our first guest, and she has a series of books that are related to the Low Country, which I believe the Low Country is South Carolina, Georgia, near the water. So that's what I believe that it's defined as, the Low Country. And I'm going to try to pronounce your name. Is it Preslaysa?
Yes, Preslaysa. You got it right.
Okay, all right, I got it right. So Preslaysa Williams, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you.
And you have a series of books, one of which is new that just came out a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, called A Wedding in the Low Country.
Yes.
But do you have a copy of the book with you?
Yes, I do. I'm messing around with my Zoom and trying to see. Here it is. I
Okay,
have
it's
it right there.
perfect, beautiful, beautiful.
It
Because
is. I like the
sometimes
colors.
sometimes is we can't see it, or they have to move it back and forth. That was a very vibrant cover and very clear. And
Thank
this
you.
is book number what in the series on the Low Country?
3. This is book number 3. Book
Okay,
number 3.
so book numbers 1 and 2 were what were the titles for those?
Book number 1 was a Low Country Bride, and book number 2 was a Sweet Low Country Proposal.
Okay, and so this one is about the wedding.
Yes, yes. I'm trying to fix my Zoom here. So hold
You
on one
you
second.
look fine. I don't know what you're trying to fix.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
now
look perfect.
she froze. She froze.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. So
Preslaysa.
her sound, her audio's not showing. Her little
Oh,
microphone.
she's coming back. She's
I
coming back.
see
There
her.
she
Okay,
is.
there you go. Okay, there you go. Normally it kind of works. The only challenge sometimes people have with their Wi-Fi, sometimes something will happen to freeze up or get slow or
Yeah.
drag or whatever. That happens. But generally, we've had some good weeks of late, like the last 10 to 12 weeks have been great with no
Oh, good.
real glitches. So, are you from the Low Country?
No, I'm actually from New Jersey, but how I
Whoa.
ended up writing, yeah, I know, right? How I ended up writing about the Low Country is I lived in the Low Country in South Carolina for several years when my husband was stationed there in the military. I still have a home there, so it is my second home, and I still visit even to this day. But I am originally from New Jersey, and when we moved there, I just fell in love with the people and the community, my church family there, and so yeah, that's how I ended up writing all these books about it.
Wow, I was just going to ask you why you felt it's so important to highlight the Low Country in your books. But I mean, I think the question still stands. I know that you said you lived there for a while and you fell in love with the people, but when you decided that you wanted to write stories, why did you feel that this was the perfect setting for your stories?
Because to me, when I was living there, like I said, I went to Amy Church there, and I just love the church family that I connected with, that me and my husband connected with, and just the friendliness, the courtesy, they took us in as their own,
Mm.
and we're like family even to this day. And so when I started to write, I wasn't writing at the time that I was met them, but when I had decided that I wanted to write fiction, I said, if I could put that feeling in a book, I wish I could, and that's how I ended up doing that.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
that's nice.
Okay, sounds friendly. It sounds like it's a small population, fairly small. Is it
Yes.
in that
Yes.
area? What's the population in that area?
Well, and where I lived in Somerville, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head because the population. Somerville is like maybe like 20 to 25 minutes from Charleston, and
Okay.
it's grown more than what it was before. But I couldn't tell you the population off the top of my head
Okay,
because
well,
I wouldn't
I figured it was
want to give the
small.
wrong number.
I just didn't know the area that you were from, if it was
Mhm.
like 2,000 people or 10,000 people. You know,
Oh,
if
okay.
it was like
Mhm.
super small
Mhm.
or,
Mhm.
10,000 is still small, but
Yeah.
for a city, but it's a different feel than 2,000. Because with
Yes.
10,000, you're going to have multiple schools and things like that. The
Yeah.
infrastructure is going to be different.
Yeah.
So I've been seeing a lot of books about the Low Country of late, and I've been hearing about it. Like, wasn't Queen Sugar? Well, that was in Louisiana, though.
Yeah, that was Louisiana.
Not considered Low
Mhm.
Country,
Mhm.
although they are kind of similar in terms of
Well, no, we don't consider
the
Louisiana the Low
Low
Country though.
Country,
Yeah,
but
that
they're
would be
like
South
swampy.
Carolina, Georgia.
Okay,
Mhm.
Yeah.
okay, that's what I thought. But
Mhm.
uh, it just came to my mind. But it's been some other books written about the Low Country of late. I've been seeing it in titles of books or things. And then was it the Low Country where recently some people died because a pier broke that they were on?
Because of
A
peer.
pier, it was at the water, and a pier collapsed. And this was a few months back.
Oh,
And
I
some
didn't know
people
this.
died. I thought it
Oh
was
yeah, I'm not sure
Georgia.
about that one.
You don't know about that one? I
Mm-mm.
think it was I think it was in that kind of general area.
Okay.
Oh.
So
I
now,
will. Yeah. Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, is it so? It's not Charleston is not the Low Country.
Yes, it is. It's
Oh, it
considered that
is.
South Carolina. Yeah, that South Carolina, Georgia area is considered
Okay,
the low.
all of
Uh-huh.
that. Okay, and that's because of the sea level, the near
Um,
water. Is the
I would say so. I would say it could. Yes, yes, yeah. Probably that area because of the geography of it. Yes. Hmm.
Well, I would say I just had a Low Country boil for dinner, so I'm feeling
Ooh.
yeah, this is all coming together for me. So, what is your favorite aspect of the Low Country? What is that in your three books? What is that
Mhm.
one thing that will always be highlighted in each of your books?
It sounds kind of like hmm. I would say the cobblestone streets in downtown Charleston for me.
Yes.
okay.
The cobblestone streets in downtown Charleston, probably because those streets are old, so they haven't those narrow streets are old. They haven't been changed or repaved or anything, so they
Hmm.
carry a lot of history with them. So for me, it would probably be those cobblestone streets in downtown Charleston. I just whenever I walk down those streets, I always think about the history that those stones carry, like the people that walk there, the conversations that were said by I think as a fiction writer, conversations that were heard by the cobblestones. So that would I think
Right.
it's the history of or that those cobblestone streets. I think will be something off the wall, but something that I will always
No, that's an amazing aspect because for some people that might not be the first thing they say. They might say they like the way the people talk, or they like the
yes.
food, or they like
Hmm.
the good low country boil. Because I like a good low country boil. In fact,
Yes.
living in Savannah, Georgia, is what made me fall in love with shrimp and grits. Because before then, I was like, why do people eat shrimp and grits together? That's terrible. But but yeah, I love it now. But for you to talk about that and the way you describe it when you say the conversations that were heard by the bricks.
Mhm.
First of all, that's an author thing to say. but it's very true because they are so old, they have seen so many things and seen so
Yes.
many changes. So I can see how that could be a character in your book all by itself.
Yes, yes, and oftentimes, as authors, especially as fiction authors, we talk about the setting being another character in the
Yeah.
book.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And we have the people, but then we have the setting, and the setting itself can also be a character. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we went to Charleston a few years back and took a tour. We took a
Hmm.
bus tour, and it's a beautiful city. It's
Hmm.
right there at the water.
Uh-huh.
And then the homes, those old colonial style homes from the 1700s, are
Hmm.
still very well preserved along with
Yeah.
the cobblestone streets. So it has a
Hmm.
lot of charm.
Yes, charm. I love that word. Yes, charm to it.
And
So
I agree.
it's not super busy.
No, no, no,
yeah,
it gets
that's
busy in the summertime, but yeah, overall it's not very busy.
Yeah, compared
yeah. I never
to
thought about that, but I think you're right about that. Yeah.
compared to some other cities, like I wouldn't even talk about Houston, because we've had so many new people come here that it's just really starting to become a nightmare on the freeways. It's just too many new people. But it's one of those places where you can get away. Like you said, you still have a home in the low country
Yes.
where you
Yes.
kind of get away from it all.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
have some
What
relaxation and just
what's
kind of
mm-hmm.
enjoy the environment and
Yes.
the culture, and just the area that you're in. It's really beautiful. They really
Yeah,
Yes.
maintained it very well.
especially in the
Mm-hmm.
springtime.
Mm-hmm.
But tell us about the story. What I don't know if this is a series, I'm guessing.
Yes. Yes.
So
This is
maybe
a
you should
series.
start from the first and then kind of
Okay.
work your way up to this one.
Okay, so we can talk about the first. The first book is called A Low Country Bride. That was released in 2021, June
Okay.
2021, and all of the books have a wedding theme to it.
Oh,
That
okay.
one is about a bridal gown designer who has big aspirations of making it in New York City with this with her boss, who is one of the major leading wedding dress designers in the country. But her father, who lives in South Carolina, her elderly father, sprains his hip, and so she comes
Mm.
down. She returns to the South Carolina temporarily to take care of him. And while she does, because he's a widow, and while she does, she ends up selling her dresses at a local bridal gown shop in downtown Charleston. And it's owned by this man who becomes her love interest. And then she has to make this decision about whether or not she wants to continue to pursue her original ambitions of making it big in New York City, or staying in Charleston in South Carolina and following her heart. Where her heart is with the love interest, and also pursuing her dream of having her unique wedding gown, or wedding designs being sold independently as part of a small business. So she has to make that decision.
Mm.
A Sweet Low Country Proposal is about a wedding planner and a museum curator. So those are the two love interests. The museum curator
Mm. That's an interesting coupling.
he works at a Black History Museum in Charleston, and she is tasked with planning a wedding at the museum, and he um, is in risk of having the museum closed down because of a lack of funding. And while she's there planning the wedding, she ends up helping him try to get the museum back on its feet financially, so that it can stay alive. And it's kind of it's a metaphor. It's not kind of a metaphor. It's a metaphor. Or the theme is keeping Black history alive, through
Mm.
trying to save this museum where she's planning a wedding. And then this book right here, A Wedding in the Low Country, is about it's a friend. I call it a friends to lovers romance. So these were high school friends. They were friends in high school. It's between a single mother and a professor, and they went their separate ways after high school. He went to college in Hampton. She went to college at Princeton. She never graduated from Princeton because life took a turn for her. She became a single mom and then decided to work to, support her daughter. But her mother passes away, and then she returns to Charleston from New Jersey, and he's living in Charleston at the time. And while she's getting her deceased mother's affairs together, it's a romance, so they fall in love.
So it's a series, but it's not necessarily about the same characters throughout each book.
No, yeah.
So
So the series part of it is like it's set in the same place, and it has this wedding theme to it. But
Right.
I do
okay.
use different characters, different relationships and stuff,
Okay.
in each of
Because
the
when you
books.
said the first one was the bride and then the second one was the proposal, wasn't it?
Yes,
And
yes.
I said,
Proposal.
okay, how can the bride be before the proposal? That was what I thought at the time. But now that I know it's not the same people. So the running theme is the Low Country.
Yes, the Low Country, and there's a wedding theme also. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And so is this the end of the series, or are you going to keep it going?
For now, yes, yes. I do have an idea about a spin-off character from one of these stories. But for now, yes. But I do have an idea. I wanted to take the daughter from one of the books and draw and write her love story years later, but I want some time to do that. So that, but for now, yes. For
Okay.
now, yes.
Now, do you have other books prior to this one? I mean, these
Yes,
three.
I do. Yes, yes, I do. I have a women's fiction. It's called Healing Hannah's Heart, and that one I self-published. And that was actually published before A Low Country Bride, and it's about a model, a fashion model who suffers from second-degree burns, and it mars her face, scars her face. And so she has to find her way, because she's always based her career is based on her looks, right? So she has to kind of recalibrate after that loss and that damage to her career, her fashion career. So yeah.
Okay, so you had one self-published book, and then you got a book deal after that.
Yes.
Oh,
Is
that's
this
impressive.
something that you were purposeful about doing? Were you intentional about looking for a publishing deal, or was this something that just kind of happened?
Oh, I was very intentional about looking for a publishing deal. Always intentional. I was actually, when I started writing in 2008, I wrote with the intention. I wrote with the intention of becoming traditionally published, but it was very challenging to be traditionally published, just because of the odds of getting traditionally published. And
Right.
then the odds for Black authors are even greater. We have an additional layer of obstacles to go through with that. So it took me a while to get traditionally published. I had been working on A Low Country Bride for a while, and then during the course of me trying to get a traditional publisher for that book, I said, "Oh, let me take a break and write something different, and then get that, focus on something different." So then I
Right,
focused
of
on,
course.
yeah, Healing Hannah's Heart. So I wrote that, and it's more women's fiction than it is a love story. So I wrote Healing Hannah's Heart, and then actually, when I first published that book, I had it published with a very small publisher, small independent publisher. And then I eventually got my rights back for that book, and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna just self-publish it." So after I got my rights back, I self-published the book. And then while I was self-publishing that, I didn't even mention, I wrote a small short story called "Touched by Fate," and it was like a prequel to a Low Country Bride. So I wrote that also, and I self-published that. All the while still working on the traditional publishing deal. So I kind of stopped to focus on another story, trying to get my head out of that, trying to get out,
I was just going
get.
to say that you were intentional, but at the same time, you wanted to make sure you took your mind off of stressing about the deal, so
Yeah,
you continue to write.
yeah, yes. That's how it works.
Ain't nothing
So
wrong with that.
did you go through an agent?
I had two. How many agents I had? I had two agents. One I had when I was first trying to get published, and it didn't work out. So me and that agent parted ways. And then I did have another agent, and that relationship didn't work out either. So I parted ways. So the short answer to your question is no, I do not have an agent for these books.
Oh, okay.
So
And
you went and got this deal by yourself.
Yes.
No.
yeah,
No,
through a major publisher. So that's impressive,
Mhm.
because a lot of times they
Yes.
won't talk to you unless you have an agent.
Yeah, and I was just going to
That's
say that is that there are going to be people who are watching this and they're going to say, I don't need an agent. She did it by herself. I can do it by myself. But see, exactly, exactly.
no, I'm a I think I'm an anomaly. What do you call it? An
Yeah.
anomaly? I'm an
Yes.
anomaly.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm an
Mhm.
anomaly because the way that I actually got this book deal, because you are correct, usually traditional publishers won't talk to you without an agent. I was a member of Romance Writers of America for a
Mm,
long time.
Mhm.
And at one time, the major publishers the came to the annual conferences at Romance Writers of America, and my current publisher had a contest where you could an own voices contest where you could submit a manuscript if you were unpublished and unagented, and you could submit a manuscript for potential publication. For potential publication. So that's how I got my in. I entered that contest. And actually, it's kind of interesting because I entered it the first year and I went to the conference and I met with my now editor and I pitched the book to her. And then she said, oh, well, the book that you're writing or the book that you have sounds a little small for our line. We're looking for books that are 75,000 words or more. She said, I don't want to tell you what to do with your story, but if you want to consider lengthening it or, adding a subplot in there, maybe you can look at it. Now, she didn't make any guarantees or promises, but I left that conference and I said, I'm going to do that. So I went home and I spent the next year adding that subplot to make the book bigger and no guarantees. But then the next year, the same publisher was at the Romance Writers of America conference. And so I signed up to meet with that editor because she was there. And I said, I don't know if you remember me from last year, but you had told me you made some suggestions about the book and I made those changes. So then she said, send me the manuscript. So then I did. And then 6 or 7 or 8 months later, I got an offer.
Oh, okay. So
but
that's a process.
it's a
Yes.
process, but she also took the advice that was given to her.
She did.
You didn't have to do that. You could have been like, nobody's going to tell me what to do with my book. My book is good the way it is. I don't have to do that. You don't have to do all of those things to get a publisher. You know what? I don't even need a publisher. I'm doing fine by myself. And you could have blocked your blessing. But you didn't do that. So, I mean,
Yes.
and I'm sure you probably got a lot of advice. Well, first of all, side note, this is why going to conferences like this is important. The
Yes.
networking is valuable, and you're going to get a lot of great advice, even if you decide to never be traditionally published.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I'm sure you got a lot of advice, you got a lot of tips, you probably went to a lot of workshops. What was it
Mhm.
about this piece of advice that said, maybe I should listen to her?
Because I knew that she was probably the key to me getting published. I knew that if she liked what I did, then she had the authority to say, "Oh, here's a contract." So
Yeah,
so that's why I listened to her.
Yeah. And plus,
makes sense.
meeting people face to face, even in the age where we do remote like we are right now,
Yes.
there's no substitute for face to face meeting because you
Yes.
get a feel for the person, you get a vibe, you're right in their face. And
Yes.
so a lot of times you can get something that way that you would not be able to get otherwise.
Yes. Yes. That's true.
And something else you mentioned just in the final minute that we have
Hmm.
is when you said that you self-published your first book and
Hmm.
then you kept going,
Hmm.
so and also you didn't start off with an agent at all.
No.
So that's something that people, that you have several lessons in your experience, that going to conference,
Yes.
like Rhonda said, not giving up, having an idea with the theme, having
Yes.
something different Because you have to
Yes.
have an angle. You can't just tell the same story everybody's, people have read multiple times other places,
Yes.
Exactly.
So you had a unique storyline and you just kept with it. So
Yes.
congratulations on that.
Thank
And
you.
this a word to the wise for aspiring authors out there who are watching the show.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of the things that you need to be mindful of if you're trying to get a book deal. So show us your book cover one more time.
Yes.
And it's the latest one is A Wedding in the Low Country, and it came out
Yes.
February 18th.
Yes.
So
All right. Well,
congratulations.
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right. You have
Okay,
a great night.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. Okay, what I didn't tell people, we do have a book to give away, but it's a book by the last guest. So that's when we're going to do it. I'm not going to mention the title or anything like that. So people won't get a head start because I'm told that people really like get revved up for these trivia questions so they can
I'm
win.
telling you, I mean, they have the answer like as soon as you say the last syllable. I'm
Right.
like, what are y'all doing?
How did they do that? So our next guest is Adiba Nelson, and she has a children's book. And as I said, the last three guests tonight are all children's authors. Adiba has a book called Ocean and Me, A Story of Love and Braids. And as she wears braids on the show. So Adiba, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Okay, do you have a copy of your book?
Do I have what?
A copy of Ocean and Me?
Yeah, Oshun, I do have it. Give me 1 second.
Okay, all right. Because the cover is actually what drew our attention.
Right
Oh,
here.
that's
Oshun
beautiful.
and me.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful work.
Thank you. Thank you. Aliana Harris did a fantastic job.
You know, I was actually talking with um a client today who's going to be working on a children's book. And
Mhm.
I said one of the most important aspects of a children's book is going to be the illustration. And she said, I remember when we were kids that the illustrations just looked like somebody drew it. I said, it's not like that anymore.
No, it's not. No, it is not.
They're very
Not at all.
developed, rich, to the
Their
point
art.
where they
It's
could
art.
actually, you took the words out of my mouth. They could actually be portraits that you could put on your wall.
Yeah.
Mhm. I told Aliana that there's a few spreads in here that I want just for my house, just to frame because they're so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
They are very beautiful, and that particular cover is beautiful. Did you go through a lot of iterations before you settled on what you have now? And did you also do a lot of interviewing before you found who you wanted?
So, no and no. I'll
Okay.
start with your second question first. So, I'm very intentional when I am deciding about who I want to work on these projects with me. And so, when I sell a story to a publisher, especially a children's book, they always ask, do you have an illustrator in mind? Do you have a look in mind for what you want these to look like? And I know, being a Black woman writer and an Afro-Latin writer in the business, that we are severely underrepresented, even though there's so many of us out there, right? And so I'm always going to choose to work with an African American or an Afro-Latin or a Latin person to do my illustrations because we just don't get enough of the pie, even though we have so much talent and we're underrepresented. So when they asked me about Oshun and me, I said that I wanted to work with either a Black illustrator or an Afro-Latin illustrator. And I would prefer that it be a woman.
Okay.
Specifically because, the book is about a little girl and her mom, and there's just every woman who's an adult now remembers hair day with their mom when they were younger. And if they have a child now, they know hair day with their child now. So I felt the connection would really be there as far as like really bringing forth that warmth and that feeling. And so I told my publisher that I wanted to work with a Black or Afro-Latin woman illustrator. They brought me three that they had found on Instagram. And I looked at the three, and Aliana's, the richness of her photos immediately jumped out to me. All of her illustrations, if you ever seen any of her work, it just feels like a hug. It always feels just like a warm hug. And so I knew immediately in looking at her work that she was who I wanted to work with. Your first question, which was, did I have to go through a lot of iterations with the illustrations to get to the final? Not at all.
Okay.
Aliana is a pro. I we sent her the story when all the edits were done and the final product was done. And we said, okay, do your magic. And I had not, I think the only note that I had to give her was about one of the wheels on Yadira's wheelchair in the illustrations. Other than that, I had nothing to say. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
That's great that you were able to basically strike gold. But I think it's because you did so much prep and you had so much intention prior to going into the process. So it made things easier on the back end.
Yes, but I do want to say, I also, not to be woo-woo, I don't know what your audience religion or spirituality journeys are, but I always do say, God, let it be what it's going to be. Let the people who need to have their hands on this put their hands on it. Let the people who need to find it, find it. I've done my job. The rest is up to you. And so I don't necessarily worry too much when it comes time to put these finished products out, because I know that the right people will end up being a part of it.
The illustrator is so important, and I'm glad you were able to find a Black female to do your illustrations. A children's book where I was able to do that too, she had to draw sketches from photographs, because these were it's about women in business. So she had to take the photograph of the women and turn them into an illustration, which she did an amazing job. And I found her on Freelancer. But it's important to have a portfolio of your work that people can access, especially when you're in a creative space.
Yeah, I think with Oshun and me, I sent her pictures of styles of braids that I wanted to see in the book.
Oh, okay.
And I sent her pictures of my daughter's wheelchair and my daughter's walker, and then other walker styles that she could choose from to draw. But everything else was her. Everything else was her. And
Wonderful.
the crazy thing is in the back of the book, there's a picture of Yadira's school. And I had never talked to Aliana about what my school looked like growing up, but it is an exact replica of my elementary school.
Wow.
And yeah, it was just one of those things. I mean, there's nothing that would tell you online where I went to elementary school in New York City. So that's why I would say, like, the people's hands who need to be on it will always be on it.
Amen.
Yeah. It's important to connect with the right people when anytime you have any kind of a project, because the wrong kind of person can bring the whole thing down. Just not necessarily make it topple, but bring everybody's spirits down.
Absolutely.
If you have someone involved who's not optimistic and upbeat, and who's a solution-oriented person, not a problem-oriented person.
Right.
So, those things are important. Now, who is Oshun and where did Oshun?
Oh, Oshun?
What's the significance of Oshun?
Oshun.
Oshun?
Yes.
Okay. So who is that? Just a totally fictional character? Is that based on? Okay.
No, Oshun is a goddess. She is often found in the spiritual practices of the Yoruba tribe of Candomblé, Santeria, Afro-Latin cultures, their spirituality.
Okay.
She's one of the goddesses that they worship, that they pray to. She's not made up at all.
Okay. I didn't know if it was a person, a character in the book. If that
Yes,
was
she is a character in the book. It's this
okay.
so Yadira, this little girl, Yadira, she learns about Oshun through her mom doing her hair because her mom always puts cowrie shells in her braids when she does them, and she always puts one right at the center. And so she's
Okay.
asking her mom, well, why do we always put this shell right here? You know, little kids are like, what? What is this, mom? Why? This is
Right.
weird.
I
Why are
want to
we
be like
doing
everybody else.
Right. And so her mom tells her about Oshun and how Oshun used the cowrie shells to protect her people when the land was dry, and she guided them to food and to water and safety. And so her mom always puts the cowrie shell in the middle, right at the top of her forehead, for protection and safety as she goes through her day. And through learning that story, because Yadira, I don't want to tell the whole story to
Right.
your audience,
Right.
but
Hmm.
Yadira learns to feel comfortable with who she is and how she presents in this world and find her own strength and her own beauty through this story of Oshun and feeling the love and the protection of Oshun around her.
Okay. So it's not just a book about braids.
No,
No,
It's
there's
I
always
like.
layers with my books.
right. I know
I was about
the
to say,
children's
just
book
Oshun is a
have a
story
lot of
within a
layers.
story.
Yes, yes, it's a story within a story for sure.
That's great. Now, what do people pick up on that? I mean, is it normally like a revelation to parents or educators who reading the book to students or
So
collecting
it
the book?
depends, if you come from a background that practices Ifa, which is the religion that's practiced in Africa that centers around the Orishas. If your family practices Candomblé or Santeria, Wundun, you know who Oshun is. If you're not of that, I do tell, like if I'm doing a story time, I will explain, the story of Oshun to the kids, even though they're getting it in the book. I will explain a little bit more. Um, there is an author's note in the back of the book, but it really just tells about like why I wrote the book and why I was so driven to write the book. My family is Afro Latin. Here's the author's note in the back. So if people are curious, they can read that.
Okay.
My family is Afro Latin. My mom's family is from Puerto Rico. My dad's family. Actually, I just found out that my grandmother on my father's side, so my father's mom, that bloodline has its origins in Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, and Jamaica.
Oh,
And
okay.
so like that side of the family, we're West African. And so it's these things, it's almost ironic that here I am like very curious about this and wanting to learn more. And then on my mom's side, I had an aunt, my titi Aning, who she practiced Santeria, and she was also very Catholic. But the Catholic Church in America didn't acknowledge the cultural
Mm.
spirituality. And so she couldn't kind of have them in the same space. So she had a linen closet where she prayed to all the Orishas. And that's kind of what stirred my curiosity as a kid of like, what's in this closet? Why do you have all these pennies? Why do you have all these cups of water? What's happening over here? What are the feathers about? But no one would tell me. And so as I got older, I started to do some research and talking to cousins and was like, oh,
Now
that's
it makes sense.
yeah, now everything makes sense. So that's a big part of like why I wrote this as well, because as a kid, I was very curious, like, what's going on? What is this other thing that Titi Aning is doing? And she's my family member, and I see my cousins like doing stuff, but I don't know what this is. And so I was like,
Right.
maybe there might be other kids out there who their families practice Ifa, practice Santeria, Candomblé, but they don't have any representation, in the world to show the beauty of their culture and their spirituality. And so that's part of the reason that Oshun and Me exists today.
That's awesome. Now, how many books have you published? Because I heard you mention earlier, you said that every time you sell a book to a publisher, so it sounds like you are multi-published.
Yes, this is my third, and I have a fourth one coming out next March. And then we have
Okay.
one out on submission, which means it's with editors trying to see who wants to buy it.
Right.
And then I'm working on my first fiction novel as well.
Oh, you're a busy lady.
Yeah, I am. This is true. This is true. I have a children's book that I self-published, and that did really well. And then my memoir, which also did well. And then this is the second children's book, but first traditionally published children's book. And then the one that comes out next March is also with Macmillan.
Okay, what was your memoir title?
Ain't That a Mother?
Oh, okay.
Love the
Yeah.
name.
It was Ain't That a Mother, Postpartum Palsy, and Everything in Between.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
you live in Tucson right now.
I do. I do.
And
Oh, that's
so
where my family is.
Oh, they
Yeah,
live here?
my dad and my stepmom live in Tucson.
Oh, wow. You know,
Yeah.
there's only but like 10 of us here, so I probably know them.
I don't know. I bet we could talk and I could start naming a couple of places. It's like, yep, I know them.
Probably.
yeah, we went through Tucson. I'm in Houston, basically.
Oh, okay. I used to live
And
in Houston too.
you used to live in Houston?
I did. I lived in Cypress and I worked in Baytown.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
wow.
That's west of, well, I think Baytown's like
Baytown's like
east,
southeast,
and it's southeast.
and then
I'm in the
Cypress is
northwest
northwest.
part of Houston.
Okay.
1960.
Yeah, just a
Okay.
few
Yes, I know exactly where
degrees of
that is.
separation.
Yeah, it is. This we went through Tucson on a road trip from Houston
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago, and I tell people if you haven't had a chance to get out and do some road trips and just see this awesome country that we
Yeah.
live in, that is just so amazingly different. It's like, because Arizona looks nothing like Texas.
No, not at all.
It's not.
Not
It's
at
a
all.
whole different. The mountains are different colors. You got desert.
Well,
You have the
my favorite
cactuses.
thing was drive when I drove from, and it was a long drive. Oh my goodness. We drove from Killeen, Texas
Mhm.
to
Okay.
Tucson to visit my dad.
That is a very long drive.
The very long drive. I think it took a day and a half just to get through Texas by itself.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
But the interesting part was passing the ghost towns on the side of the road.
Mhm.
Some of these old Western towns were like still there, still standing. Nobody's there, but they're still standing.
Yeah.
And to me, that's always been very interesting. And just to be able to see them, I was a little nervous about stopping there to look closer, but it was nice to drive past them.
Understood. I'm originally from New York City, but I've been in and out of Tucson for over 30 years. But I'd say Tucson is where I built community. But New York is always going to be home for me.
Okay.
Oh,
We were in New
you
York
probably know
last
my
time.
good sorority sister too.
And I see you're a Z-Fi. I
Oh,
do
yeah.
know some Z-Fis.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Hey, I want by extension because my daughter's one. So, but it is a beautiful country. What I really just found amazing are it it looks like the scenery in a Western movie, even from the interstate. Those mountains that are like orange and brownish,
Yeah.
that area, it looks like it hasn't been touched for like thousands of years.
Arizona is the topography of Arizona is really beautiful. I will absolutely agree with that.
It really is, and it's just different from anywhere else. We hope to go through Montana and Wyoming next year. That's going to be, I've heard that's beautiful country, and
I'm
I've been
sure it
pretty
is.
much everywhere. I haven't driven through like the Midwest. Like I've been to it, but I haven't driven there. Like Illinois and Ohio up there. But it would have to be in the summer for sure. Because the winters that's a whole different thing. And it's a lot of mountains in that area too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
So,
what?
well, I was
What?
going to ask about the next book. What were you going to ask about?
Okay.
She has the
Well,
book coming out.
I was gonna ask what's next. So we're
Okay.
basically asking the same thing. So you ask your
Okay.
question.
So your next book, Hazel's Best Day, that
Yes.
comes out in March.
Yes.
And so what is that about? What is
Hazel's Best Day. I am so excited about it. Thank you so much for asking me. Hazel's Best Day, oh, it just warms my heart. Hazel is this little Black girl. She's disabled and she's going to her very first disability pride parade. And she's so excited about it. And on her journey to the parade, you get to see what her community looks like and how accessible the community is for not just folks with disabilities, but for everyone in the community. And
That's
then she gets
beautiful.
to the parade and she sees all the folks with all their varying abilities. And it's just beautiful. And I'm so excited about it. I dreamt Hazel up on just like a spur of the moment thing. And she's so cute and so full of life and energy. Like you can't help but love her as soon as you see the illustration. And it's a completely different illustrator, completely different style of illustration. For Hazel's Best Day, we're using a cut paper illustration style. And we're using Deanne Wiley, and she is a fantastic, fantastic illustrator. Her book just came out a few months ago called Homegrown. It's a children's book, and she just does beautiful work. But Hazel is just full of spunk and sass and energy and sweetness, and I cannot wait for everyone to meet her.
It sounds like you're describing a real person. It's like you've established relationships with your characters.
I have, and I would say so one thing about me is all of my children's books will always feature disabled children of color
Okay.
because they are never seen in children's books.
Right.
And disabled children of color exist. They're here. They have just as much value as any other child. They deserve to be represented in this world just as much as any other
I
child,
agree.
as any other disabled child. But when you look at disabled children in books, they're typically white or they're animals.
Mm.
But it's never little Black boys and girls, little Hispanic boys and girls. And my daughter is a little Afro-Latin girl who's disabled. And I needed her when she was little to be able to look in a book and see someone that looked like her. And that's how this whole children's book journey got started. And so there's always a little touch of my daughter in every character that I come up with. And my very first book, Meet Clarabelle Blue, was expressly my daughter. I would say Hazel is pretty close to my kid as far as like just the energy that she exudes and the warmth and the joy that she exudes. That personality is definitely my kid. Um, Hazel gets to dress a lot more spunky than my kid because my kid won't let me dress her anymore. So I
Of
have
course.
no say in
I'm going
that.
to ask
Of
how
course.
old she is. And
She's
normally,
16.
12 is when that
Yeah.
realization occurs for
Yeah.
parents. I know it did for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
she's very much about like her combat boots now and her jeans. Although now she's switching to cowboy boots. So I'm just like, ugh, whatever.
They have their own style. You
It's
have
her
to
thing.
you have to let them
Yeah.
explore it. Then
Yeah.
eventually
So
come back.
I let her do her thing. And she's got a very cute little style. It's very much her. But I definitely establish a relationship with my characters, even with the fiction novel that I'm working on that I hope to be finished with by this summer. That main character, I've even gotten to be very close to that character. And I feel like sometimes I'm talking to her like, girl, what you gonna do? What's your next step? What are you gonna do now?
Now, is that story going to feature a disabled person as well?
So yes, that story does feature a disability of it's my daughter rolling by.
Oh,
It deals with mental illness.
okay.
Yeah, it deals with mental illness. It's a psycho thriller. It's a speculative psycho thriller. Um, and it's really interesting. It's totally different than anything I've ever written. It's definitely not a children's book. I think people are going to be like, whoa, wait a minute. You write soft, fuzzy, warm books. What is this?
And so I was just going to ask, are you writing it under a pen name? And I'm guessing the answer is no.
No, no, it's me. I no, it no, it would be too weird to write it under a pen name. It's just me. I think like who is it? Stacey Abrams is an author and she writes under a
Yes.
pen name. She's a romance novelist.
Yes.
And I was like, I would have never in a million years guessed. So I can see like why she writes under a pen name. But for me, I'm like, I am who I am. I'm just gonna get it like you get it.
There you go.
Yeah. So what gave you the writing bug? When did you know that you wanted to do
Okay,
this?
so if my best friend is watching, she's gonna kill me for sharing this story. Faith, I love you. When we were, I think maybe in junior high, maybe
Mhm.
New Kids on the Block was all the
Yes.
rage, and
Yes.
we would write these stories. Oh my God. We would write these stories about us and New Kids on the Block, like going on tour with them. She would mostly write them, and then I'd read them, be like, "Oh, let's add this, let's add that." Um, but that was like the first time I was like, "Oh, this is kind of a cool thing." But then we never kept up with it because New Kids fizzled out, and we were in high school now. You don't do that in high school anymore. But then I'd say when I was about 15, I got like that teenage angst poetry bug where you write about like I want to burn the whole world down and everything's awful and I hate everybody. And so I started doing that when I was 15 and I had stacks of composition books of just poetry. And then I kept writing poetry into my 20s and I got into spoken word and slam poetry. And I did that for a while. I did that up until I was like maybe 24.
Okay.
And then I went back to school and I stopped writing for a really long time. But then after my daughter was born, I had some really severe postpartum depression that kind of veered into postpartum psychosis. And I
Mm.
started a blog basically. That was when blogging was all the rage.
Mhm.
And I started a blog to just write my way through it. And the way I use like coping skills, for me, humor is a coping skill. And so my blog was called Spit Up is Sexy. And I just blogged my way through my postpartum depression. And an author that you all are probably familiar with, Deneen Milner,
Yes.
Yeah.
unbeknownst to me, I have been a huge fan of hers since my early 20s. I had read so many of her books by that point. Unbeknownst to me, she was following my blog. And one day she sent me a message. She's like, "Oh my God, you're so funny, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, wait a minute. Is this the Deneen Milner who wrote this and this and this? And you are a columnist here and here and here. She's like, that's me. And that was kind of the note of like, oh, your favorite author thinks you're a good writer. This is interesting. And I just kind of held that in the back of my head. And then when my daughter was 2, I came out of the postpartum depression. I talk about it in the memoir. Um, and then the blog kind of fell because I was better, if you will.
Mhm.
But then when my daughter was 2, we were looking for children's books where she could see herself in, and there wasn't any. And so I came home and I rage wrote Meet Clarabelle Blue.
Rage
And
wrote it.
Rage
yeah,
Road.
I rage wrote it because I was so
Oh,
angry that we couldn't find a book that she could see herself in. I just came home and was like, fine, then I'll just write
but
you a
then
book.
you went back and edited and softened it up a little bit, right?
I made Clarabelle Blue very sweet and kind, and the mom was very nice in the book. But I was livid that I could not find a book. The lady at the bookstore showed me a book that had a disabled like raccoon or something.
Mm,
And I was like,
Oh.
well, my kid's not a raccoon, so no, that's not gonna work. Um,
thank you.
and so that's when I came home and as I call it rage writing, my first children's book, and that started everything.
You know, rage writing is a thing because my first book was from rage writing. I never heard it put like that.
It's a
but
thing.
anger is a good
Rage.
motivator for certain things.
Yeah.
Rage
And
writer.
it can be positive. It can turn into something positive.
I mean, it got me here.
It can produce.
I mean, it can. It can.
Yeah, my very first book was based on that. And then I'm in book 15, working on book 16.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And I never thought I would have more than one book. Once I did that rage writing with the first one and got it out of my system, I never anticipated having another one. But then I got the rest of my books are based on being inspired, you know, not being angry. The other books being angry, I'm trying to think. But it's mostly inspiration. But that first one, anger can be a good motivator if it's channeled correctly.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, show us your cover one more time, your awesome, beautiful cover of your book one more time.
This is Oshun and Me, and it's also available in Spanish, Ochun y Yo, and it was narrated and translated by Isa Mas. So you can hear it, an audio version in Spanish as well. And the audiobook is available in English as well. And it's really lovely. Macmillan put music behind it. So there's like some African drumming and some marimba sounds.
Very nice.
And there's some times where you can hear the shells with Yadira running her fingers through her shell. You can hear the rain.
A whole immersive experience.
It's really beautiful.
Okay, well, though that cover is awesome.
Here, I'll hold it.
It says it all.
Shameless plug.
There you go. All. Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show, and congratulations on your previous books, this one, and your future ones.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, ladies.
Thank you. You have a great night, and best wishes to you, and good luck on the new release.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, so we have our next children's author. And did you meet her at the festival? Did you meet Ashley Irvin at the festival?
I'm thinking. I may have. I'm horrible sometimes. I know the name and then I have to see the face.
But Ashley she's unique in terms of she was a winner of the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards last year in 2 different categories with 2 different books. She submitted 2 different books and she won in both categories that she submitted in. And so I'm trying to remember, don't quote me, but I don't think anybody else has done that the same year, one with 2 different books.
Well, that says a lot about you.
Categories.
Wow.
So welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you.
And the books were just beautifully done. So I don't know if you are self-published or not, but they were just really exceptional and stood out in the judging process, because we have a panel of judges and we have a very lively discussion. We look at each book and it's a point system. So from 0 to 5, each book, and we also do decimals. So you can do 1.5 or 3.5. So we have a panel of 6 judges and we add up all the scores. So that's how we determine who wins in each category. Well, that's how we determine the finalists and then the winners in those categories. So the 2 categories you were in, do you have your 2 books handy?
I don't.
You don't? Because I wanted people to see how beautiful they were.
Oh, Ashley.
You don't have
I'm sorry, I'm busy.
You don't have anywhere at home where you can go around real quick and get one?
It's in my car. If you would.
Oh, no, that might be a little far.
Well, is it far? Is it right outside? I want people to see at least one of them.
Okay, well, we can wait then. Go ahead. We'll talk about
ourselves. We can talk about something else. As a matter of fact, we can talk about the book we're giving away and in this part, but the book is for the next guest. So
Right.
our final guest has a name that is beautiful and long, and that I'm not even going to try to pronounce. Starts with an O, but the name of her book is Operation Sisterhood, and she has more than one Operation Sisterhood book. So this one is called Stealing the Show. It's the subhead is Stealing the Show. And the trivia for this book is that the main character has someone in her neighborhood who the main character's name is Sunday, and someone in Sunday's neighborhood is a TV star. And what we want to know for the trivia question is, what is the star's name? The TV star, the neighborhood friend that lives in Sunday's neighborhood. Sunday's the main character. And what is her name? So if you get the answer to that, you win your copy of this Operation Sisterhood book. So Ashley's back. And do you have both books or just one?
I have one.
Okay. Now, this one is The Little Shepherd and the Lost Sheep. And this book won the Best Illustrated book. The illustrations in this book are just beautiful. Very,
You
very
finished it so fast.
So just leaf through there, just show a few
I
of the
remember that book.
Yes, yes. Show the audience some of the illustrations in the book, and
Yes.
I'm assuming it's based on Jesus. Is it based on that or Christian culture, scripture? So it's just so beautifully done, and we were just blown away by the illustrations on that. So tell us what this story is about.
So yeah, so it is based off of the biblical story about the lost sheep. And so I
Okay.
figured, well, let me, kind of recreate the story in a way that children could read and understand it. So basically, I create a story about a father is teaching his son the ways of being a shepherd. And then one of their sheep goes missing. So a storm comes through the farm, it breaks the fence, and the sheep goes missing. And so the father is telling the son the importance of going after, this one sheep because, he's lost, he's scared. So, and that sheep belongs to them. So they go out on a journey looking for the lost sheep. And then in the end, they find, where the sheep ended up. But yeah, it's a retelling of the biblical story of the lost sheep.
And it's very accurate too. I remember being in church and the pastor described that the kennel, I don't want to say kennel, but for lack of a better term, I'll say kennel, and how it looked and how there's only one gate. And you have that illustrated there perfectly.
Yes. So
Now, what was the inspiration behind depicting the lost sheep, the parable of the lost sheep? Was it a parable? I think it was a parable.
I think
But
one is because it is a good story with so many
Mm.
different, meanings, and you could, really recreate. I think just be able to recreate that story into a children's book. And also
Right.
too, my family, we have a property, and so we have sheep. So having sheep is like we understand, how sheep are, the ways of, taking care of the sheep, leading them to the pasture, protecting them. So it's like, well, because I have some experience with it, it just makes sense to write, the story.
Makes sense.
Wow. Wow. So where do you live? Where you have the sheep?
In San Antonio,
Oh, you do. You have sheep in. So are you in the city of San Antonio or like
just the
the
outskirts.
outskirts? I don't. We have horses in Houston, like in the city,
Oh,
but I don't think we have sheep. That's why. But some people have chickens, and even though it's against some of the deed restrictions, now people are getting them so they can get eggs at a reasonable cost. So,
hmm
but
Yeah,
we
we
have
have chickens as well. So,
okay, we have a lot of horse farms in and around Houston. And right now we're in the middle of our rodeo, which is like the Mardi Gras, but for Houston, it's the rodeo. It's a 3-week thing, and it's a huge event where people do trail rides and come from all over, and they have a lot of artists perform.
I still like Fiesta myself.
Oh yeah. It's fun, yeah. Very lively.
Where's Fiesta?
In
Is
San
that San
Antonio.
Antonio? Okay.
Mhm.
I was born in San Antonio, but I never
That
lived
was
there.
my sister.
Okay. Was she born at Fort Sam?
No, she was born at Lackland.
Okay. So I was born at Fort Sam, Houston. So, but my dad was in the military at the time. So, but I've only visited San Antonio since. San Antonio is a nice touristy town,
It
especially
is,
with that river right in the middle. It's really
Yes,
nice.
very pretty.
It gets hot though. I mean, Houston's hot too, but we went to SeaWorld when my daughter was, I think she was like 10, something like that. It was so hot. We went for the 4th of July one weekend instead
Oh
of,
yeah, in July, the middle of summer. Ooh,
it was so hot at SeaWorld. But it was beautiful, that river where we did the riverboat ride and all of that. And that was really nice. So that's interesting that you all raise sheep. How many do you have in your herd? I guess it's called a herd.
Well, I heard.
Okay.
Well, we have 4 right now. We're starting off
okay.
small, so.
Okay. So this is a new venture. Is it a new
Oh yeah,
thing
we're
you're
brand
trying?
new.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. Okay. So do you shear the sheep? What?
Yeah, we actually just sheared the sheep this past weekend because it's getting
Okay.
hot now, so
Right.
take
Right.
that wool off of them to cool them down.
That makes
So,
sense.
so do you sell the wool? What do you do with
This
the
is
wool?
our first year, so we're not sure what we're gonna do with it yet. We kept it,
Okay.
so we're not sure what we're gonna do with it just yet.
You can make some nice pillows.
hmm My mom sews, so who
Well,
knows?
you
Mm.
see movies and they have a sheep skin that they use for a cover, like a wrap
hmm
or a blanket or whatever. So that's interesting. So it tied right in to the theme of your story. Now you also won in the coloring and activity books category with the
Yeah.
book that you don't have a copy of with you, but it was called Detective Harper and the Bakery Mystery. And it was
Mhm.
also very beautifully illustrated. So uh, you were, your book stood out. Now, are those only 2 books you have, or do you have like more books?
I have one other book that was my first book. It's called The Son's Redemption. And it's basically about a king who tells his 2 sons, basically, um, he goes off, out of the castle. And so he told his 2 sons to, you could do whatever you want to do, you could have whatever you want, but just don't leave the palace. And so it's kind of a story about disobedience because they end up leaving the palace. And then two common boys, I guess you would call them, would come. They switch places, so they kind of drew the 2
Wow.
princesses out to, and I guess like imposters. So they entered the palace as the prince. So when the princes came back to enter the palace, they would say, "Well, this is where the princes." They're like, "Well, y'all just, the princes just entered back in. So who are y'all?" So like kind of like a disobedience and their, the consequence of not listening to your parents.
Oh, okay. Now, are you an educator or what do you like do?
No, I actually work in with TRICARE. I don't know if the military.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Um,
I'm a veteran, so thank you.
okay, yeah, I work with Humana. So I do authorizations for mental health and substance use. And so for active duty service members and their families, I would help locate, treatment for them and then refer them
Right.
out.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
what inspired you to do children's books?
I think it's because it's more Children these days, I guess, are more like, tech savvy, more into computers and phones. And so, oh, my lights went out. Oh, mine just went out.
Well, I
Can
hate
y'all
when
see
that
me
happens.
okay?
But don't we see you? It's a little darker
Okay.
now, but we can still see you.
So I just feel like I want to create stories to where it's kind of interactive. That's kind of what inspired me with the Detective Harper book. I want to do books that's interactive, that is educational, going back to morals and values and making it fun to where children are not so like, technology, savvy and more getting
Right.
back to reading again, getting back to common sense and, the ways of, our forefathers, going back to sewing and keeping sheep, gardening. So it's that kind of mindset of just getting our children back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tear the kids away from not even just kids. You can't even tear the adults away from all of the technology these days.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I
it's even
agree.
harder with the kids.
I agree. One thing that really bothers me when I go out shopping is to see a mother with her face in her phone and her kid is just kind of following along. I'm like, the way she's focused on the phone, that kid could wander off. I mean, these aren't
Hmm.
big kids. These are like maybe 6, 7, 8 years old. They could wander off and she wouldn't even know they were gone because she's
Yeah.
so focused on that phone. So
Right.
um, there have been a lot of studies about the need for more engagement, more socialization for children and adults.
It
Because
starts at home, basically.
mhm,
It starts
it
at
does
home.
start at home,
Mhm.
and you can't wait for your kid to get an epiphany to tear them away from their device. You have to take the device away and also have something else that you engage with that they can be doing besides that. Because
Right.
if you start giving them those, people give their kids tablets at 2 years old, and I know they're trying to keep them quiet, but you really get them hooked on those devices where they
Hmm.
Well,
really can't.
I'll also say that I've started looking at the video games a little differently because kids are actually learning a lot of life skills like decision making and other there are other things that go into playing video games that we don't always realize. And so if a child is going to be into the video games, yes, they still need to have have their responsibilities taken care of, their homework, chores, so forth, whatever it is. But often that time that they play on the video games is their time to decompress. And then they're also learning um, critical thinking skills and decision making skills by playing these games. These are things that we don't think about because we didn't grow up with it. Our extent of video games was Atari. Well, mine. I mean, I don't know how old you are actually, but yeah, but Atari was basically the first game system. And we only got to play that every once in a while. That wasn't something that we were able to pull out every 5 minutes and play.
No, because
But
they were playing on the TV. You had to
exactly,
trim
and
the
everybody had
television,
the one
right?
TV, so you can't play it on.
So you could only get a little bit of time on there because everybody had to use that television. Now it's a
Right.
television in every room. So it's a little bit, and then they have the tablet. My concern is they may be learning some motor skills, or they might have to decide, do I pick this color or that? And I'm just using that for an example, but they're not learning social skills. They're not learning how to look somebody in the eye and talk to them, engaging in a conversation, just talking. They're missing out on that. And so it's just like anything. There needs to be balance. That's
No,
all.
there does need to be balance, but
Mhm.
like I said, we adults are not the best social people either because we're like this the whole time.
Yes,
Um,
I'm
have you
see,
ever
I'm
gone
I'm
out to
not,
eat?
but
Have you ever gone out to
mhm.
eat and you'll see four people sitting at the table and all four of them are on their phones?
Yeah, well, we have a rule at home. When we have dinner, when we're all at dinner, nobody is on their phone. the phones are put away. We don't do phones at dinner because we talk. And so, but I do remember, one thing I remember is my first, like when phones first came out, and my husband and I went out to dinner, and somebody was on their phone, and I thought that was so rude that they were using their phone instead of, and you're at a restaurant where you're supposed to be interacting. And I can remember it was just so, now everybody does it. But then when it was new, when not everybody had a phone, this was probably, it might be pre-flip phones. I don't know. The first phones, I can't, I don't know if they flipped or not. They were big and they had like an antenna or something. I can't remember exactly, but I remember that really, like, I thought it was so rude. But now it's really different if people aren't on their phones. There's, you know, when you go out to a restaurant, there's nothing out of the ordinary, but it was when the phones first came out. So, you know, now it's commonplace.
Right.
Mhm.
But
So,
but I know, you know, we started talking about video games and so forth,
mhm.
but what's next for you, Ashley? Do you have a
Oh,
new
so going
book?
back, yeah, to go Detective Harper. So with that book, I want to do a 3-book series. So with that book, it's interactive. So each page it has a magnifying glass, and it's uniquely hidden in the each page. And then
Oh wow.
secondly, there is a code in the book. And so being a like a detective, book, I wanted to create like a mystery type, feeling. So in the book, there's a code for the children to find. And so when they
Hmm.
find that code, they would go to my website, put that code in, and it will unlock games based off of the book.
I love that.
So
Yeah,
I want to do
that's
a
a lot of
3-book
thinking.
series
That was,
off of that.
okay. See that takes really intentional thought and planning and a higher level of creativity to have that happen. So did the kids do that? Did they go on there to find the
Yeah,
clues?
I had a lot of children go to the website and play the different games and stuff. But yeah,
And
so I
that
incorporate.
gives me a thought for my next book. I have a children's book series, and I'm planning to do book 6. If I don't do it this year, it'll be next year because I have another book that I'm hoping to get done this year too. So, but that gives me an angle, and I wouldn't do what you were doing exactly because I don't like. But you know, QR codes are so common now that people are using it for
Mhm.
everything. So I could incorporate that in the storyline somehow. Um, and you know, that gives me a creative thought that I could use for my next book, which is totally, it's about, you know, my book series is about teaching children to be entrepreneurs. So I could, you know, easily incorporate something with codes in there. So, so when you could, we had a picture of you from the book festival that we posted with you interacting with the kids. I think you were either doing story time
That was a cute picture.
of you. I don't know if you saw it because we were posting pictures for weeks. I had so many pictures from the festival. And the thing about, you know, my photographer takes really good pictures, but they don't have names. So some of the people had their badge on, but some of them didn't. So, or some had it turned around. So it took a lot of work to just put names with the faces, and we had to get the team to look and say, "Do you know who this is?" and all of that. So it and we had like 400 photos. So it's
Oh
not a
wow.
small number of photos.
Hmm.
So, but it was interactive. And when we posted the pictures, we emailed every author when we did it, but you may have missed the email. So, and I emailed you the photos too. When we posted them, we emailed the actual
So
photos.
Ashley, you better go back and check your
Oh, look at
email,
your
girl.
email. So you can, and you can put it on your own website and all that. But that's really great. So it's amazing that you're thinking of these really creative things for kids and you're not in the education field. That's why I thought you were an educator.
Oh
Because
no.
your planning was so well thought out and your illustrations are amazing. How did you find your illustrator?
So for The Little Shepherd and Lost Sheep, I found this program where they offer like the editor, the formatter, like everything I need. So
Oh,
I just kind
okay.
of search online for, so some help to get my book going. And I just found this company, Global Book Publishing, um, and they're the ones that did everything for me.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, that is good. Yeah, I did mine is piecemeal. I have one person that does the illustrations, I have a formatter, I have somebody who does the
I think both options are
PDF.
good depending on your needs.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I
'Cause
agree. I agree.
right. I mean, because in Ashley's case, it was good to have one person who, or not one person, but one program
One
that did
entity.
everything.
Hmm.
But then, Gwen, since you've been around for a while, you probably know who you want to work with for such things, and you may not want to go with the program because you're used to working with certain people.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, it depends on what illustrators are. Did you just do the same thing for both books, Ashley?
Yes, but it
Because
was two
sometimes you
different.
change your illustrator depending on your theme. Like some illustrators are good
Hmm.
with certain types of illustrations, but like for cover art, necessarily you may want to use somebody totally different. Not you, a person. Because
Right.
it's all kinds of options out there. It's lots of the thing, we're in a brave new world where self-published authors can do so much on their own, and their projects still look very professional. And do you consider yourself to be self-published, or with the company doing your project, like putting it together, like that part? Is that
It's
still 2019?
self-published because the company isn't like a traditional publishing company. They're like a hybrid. So
Okay.
they're not considered a publishing company. So I'm self-published.
It's
Okay.
kind of a done for you type thing. They do it for you, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Mhm.
like a turnkey thing operation where you give them. But did they edit too?
Mhm. They did
Okay, so
everything.
they do that.
Mhm.
Okay, they did that too. Okay, well that's interesting. So, show us the cover of the book again, and then let people know how they can order your books, or find out more about you and the work that you're doing.
So both books, this one and then Detective Harper and the Bakery Mystery, they're both available on Amazon.
Okay.
Um, and then my website is authorashleyirvin.com, and you can find it there as well.
Okay. Well, congratulations again on winning the awards.
Thank
And when you
you.
found out, well, were you present when we announced? Were you, because we did the announcement at
No.
the festival. So you missed that part. So when did you find out that you won?
When I got the email.
Oh, okay. And did
Well,
you
thanks for
did you think,
checking your email.
yeah, that's good. Did you think it was real? Were you like,
I was shocked because because I also the same book, this book, I also submitted this to what's the company name? It's another award, book award. And it was the same thing, illustrator, it was an illustration category, and I was a finalist. So I thought when I was listed as a finalist with y'all, I thought that was it. I know there was an actual winner. So I knew it
oh,
was
okay.
a finalist, but I know there was a winner. So
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we do 5 finalists, and then we do one winner in each category. And the winner, the finalists all get the gold sticker to put on
hmm
their book. But the winner gets a really nice award and the sticker. And you got 2 awards. So
yes.
yeah, so well, and we like to surprise people, because people normally, I know when I've been nominated for something or became a finalist, uh I was very excited. So it's exciting for your work to be recognized.
hmm
Absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah. So, all right. Well, Ashley, thank you for being a guest on the show and continued success with your books.
Thank you so much.
Have a
And you
great
have a
night.
wonderful evening.
Alrighty, you too.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Now we're bringing on our final guest. Did anyone post
Yes,
the answer to the question?
Lydia Brew
Lydia
one.
Brewan. Okay, Lydia. Well, your copy of Operation Sisterhood Stealing the Show is on its way. We now I am not going to butcher your name, so I will let you say what your name is, but welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
All right, now I think I know how to say it, but I'm
Okay.
not going to say it in case I say it wrong. So I'm going to just listen and I'm going to tell you if I was right.
Okay, okay. You sure you don't want to? You welcome
No,
to
because I don't want to butcher your name. That's
No.
It's okay.
disrespectful.
I always appreciate people trying. So
Okay.
I don't know where the accent is. That's what I want to hear. Where's the
yeah.
accent? So,
So
Olugbemisola?
you got it.
oh, okay. Well, that's what I was gonna say too, but I didn't want to mess it up. So,
Yeah,
and
Olugbemisola. I think
okay.
the G throws people off a lot. So the G in the middle looks like it makes it more
So,
complicated, but you got it.
so the accent is
Okay.
on the O.
Yeah, Olugbemisola.
Mhm.
And the G is almost like it's silent because it's a Yoruba name, and in Yoruba, GB is one letter.
Okay.
Oh, okay, okay. And Ruday,
And
it's
Perkovich.
really an American accent
Okay.
there.
Now, Perkovich is
Perkovich
not
is
an
not
African name.
Yoruba. It's not
No,
Yoruba.
it is definitely not Yoruba. That's my husband's last name. That's a Croatian name.
And where is he from?
Well, his grandfather, on his father's side, Croatian.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Perkovich. Okay. So, were they Muslim?
My family?
No, his family. There was
No,
Croatian. That's
no.
okay.
Christian. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Because
yeah,
there's a Muslim community in Croatia.
yeah.
Mhm. So your book, now this is a young adult fiction, I guess, or is it middle grade? What is it
It's
considered?
middle grade, but it's,
Okay.
I always feel like books always find the right readers. And so, like, I will enjoy some middle grade books. I enjoy picture books. It's for
That is
whoever
true.
wants to read.
That is true. Because
And how
adults
many
tell me
books?
they read my children's books and enjoy them. So,
Yeah, exactly.
it was
Exactly.
written for your daughter or your granddaughter, but then they said they were blessed by it too. So,
Exactly.
you're right. A book will find this audience. And
That is very true. Now, how many books do you have currently?
Ooh, I should be
Uh-oh.
prepared for this question.
oh, is
It
that
must be a
many?
lot.
So you
So I have about my first book came out in 2010. Um, I have about 16, I think. Um, so I write for all ages. I write picture
Oh,
books, easy
okay,
readers, middle
okay,
grade, young adult, fiction,
Okay.
nonfiction.
okay.
Um, so yeah,
So it's not just children's books.
well, so far it's been just chilled up from like baby to teen.
Okay.
Um, but I also have ideas for some adult books coming up too.
Okay.
So I'm excited to
Hmm.
write it all. I got a lot of stories.
Well,
Okay. Like
that's,
it. I
that's
see that you also are into crocheting.
I'm a knitter. My sister,
Knitting.
yes, my sister is a crocheter, so we battle. But yeah,
all
I'm a
those
knitter.
rolls of yarn behind you.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
a woman of many talents. Love that.
Do
So
you
So,
do you
now,
crochet? Oh,
I'm sorry,
do you crochet
not at
or?
all.
Oh,
me either.
But when I was a kid, I used to do the latch hook, though.
oh yeah. I used to love doing that.
I never
Yes.
tried. The closest I got to it, now this is way back. It's not even crocheting. They used to have when you made a pot holder, and they
Yes,
had these little metal
the
things
thing that
where
you
you would
Yeah.
put that's the closest I got to crocheting.
oh, that was
But
fun
I could
too.
sew. I really was a really good seamstress. I mean, I made really, really nice outfits where I would take the pattern, but I would still, alter it to
Do
put my
your
own
thing.
style to it.
Yeah.
But I gave that up several years ago. But I can still do my own buttons and hemming if it's not like a formal or something like that. I
Oh,
can't,
that's
I
nice.
wouldn't do that. Or something with a lining. Linings are challenging when you're
Lining,
hemming.
yeah, I can't. I love to sew, but I can't do like linings. And,
Yeah,
yeah,
those I
I
do. I
keep it
let the
simple.
professional do that.
Yeah.
And I try what I
So,
try to do to get around it is get a petite.
mm.
They have it. That way I don't have to worry about hemming. Petite, it's
So
the
has
right thing.
knitting found its way into your into any of your books?
It has. It's
Oh.
funny because knitting is in some ways a part of my writing process because I like just knitting, sewing, like making things. It helps me think when I'm writing and
Mm.
sort of think through the stories. And so a lot of times when I'm stuck, which is a lot of the time, I will pick up the knitting or I'll go for a walk. Um, I had a knitting teacher once who was telling me that like the old knitters used to walk and knit. So I try that sometimes. And then my characters, like in Operation Sisterhood, especially, my characters are makers and they like to make things. So there is one of the sisters, Lil, she sews, she knits, she sort of is the fashion one and she makes clothes for her sisters and knits hats for her sisters and designs and I love putting that kind of creative, crafty side in the books, and encouraging kids to be creators themselves, to sort of figure out
Yes.
what way they want to create and understanding that creating is telling a story. And the things
Hmm.
that we make tell stories about ourselves, and they're a way to sort of share our stories.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, I say it a lot, and I find myself saying it a lot lately, that there is nothing wrong with feeding into your child's creative
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
I think often, in fact, I even saw a post on Facebook, on Instagram today, where it said, "Me, I'm a writer," and then them, and then it had them. Okay, but what do you do for a living? You know, people don't think of your writing as your
Yeah.
job.
As work. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
as work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. A lot of times people will be like, "Oh, I wish I could write. I could just sit there and wait for the ideas to come and get up and look out the window." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's the daily work of writing."
It's not as romantic as you might think it is.
Exactly. You all know. Yeah.
Yeah, and um, not that many people from a percentage standpoint. Like if you take all the writers who write books, even if they write one book or one book forever or one book a year or however, not that many percentage wise make a living with it.
Yeah.
Mm,
For most people,
Yeah.
meaning that's all they do for their bills,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
pay their mortgage or whatever.
I'm just trying to get my life right because I think I'm retiring in about maybe 9 years. So I need my writing to go ahead and replace my income.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I got to get my
Well,
life right.
yeah,
I
I think
mean,
it
yeah.
takes a lot of books, or it takes a huge sales of a couple of books.
Well,
Couple books.
I'm
But
gonna do something.
either
I'm
way,
doing something.
yeah, whatever works, whatever makes it add up, you know,
Right.
to to uh
Yeah.
to work. Uh, and this Operation Sisterhood, I like the illustrations on the front. It looks like they're a band.
They are a band. I love the illustrations on the front. The artist is Brittany Bond. She did such a great job, and that's actually the second
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, it's
This
pretty.
it's the
Mhm.
second book in the series. I have the first book with me,
Okay.
and she did that too.
Oh, okay.
Just did such a great job with the cover, and they are a band. So in the first book, the main character is Bo. So she's kind of coming in as a new sister into the family. And she's a little bit like, what are these people? This is a family that homeschools and they sort of live in a different way than she's used to. So she's coming from a sort of a very traditional childhood, and they seem kind of free, and they're doing all these creative things, and they have all these animals in their house. They got chickens in the backyard in Harlem, and so and they're musicians, and she is a drummer. And so in that first book, it's about them kind of becoming their band, Operation Sisterhood, and sort of coming together and understanding. She's understanding that sometimes she has to set boundaries
Yes.
with people, and sometimes she has to be flexible and learn new things. And so in the second book, Operation Sisterhood Stealing the Show, it's told from the point of view of Sunday, one of the other sisters. And she's the one who's like enthusiastic. She got all the big ideas. She's the writer. And she's starting to feel, which I think is a thing that a lot of kids, I know I felt it, a lot of kids feel like right around that age, 10, 11-ish, where she's like, well, my sisters are getting all this attention. Like people think they're special for all these different reasons. People, and I want to be noticed. I want to figure out how I can shine. And she basically has to come to understand that she can shine without dimming anyone else's light. That she has a light, that she doesn't have to do something big. She doesn't have to do something spectacular. She thinks she has to put on the produce and write and direct and star in a big show. She's going to do this big show and just dazzle everybody. But understanding that the small stories of their community, the ways that she cares about people of different generations in her community, the ways that she understands, they have a community garden that they kind of gather in and talk and learn about each other in, and that those are the things, those small stories are important, and those small stories are ways that everybody shines. And when they all do, and when they all kind of come together to this community effort and celebrate their community, celebrate their heritage, celebrate themselves, they shine that light out.
Love that.
Mhm.
That's a great lesson for people of any age, I think.
I think so. I always need to learn it over and over again.
Yeah, we each have our own unique life,
We do.
and we have to learn to appreciate the uniqueness of ours and not compare it to someone else's. And that's
Exactly.
hard. That
Agreed.
can be hard to do, even
It's
as an adult.
exactly.
Yeah, because Rhonda, she's juggling
A lot.
so many balls. I thought I was a juggler. Now I've pulled back on some of my juggling. So
I'm slowly pulling back on some of my juggling, but yeah, what Gwen is saying is there are times when I come straight from my day job right right in front of this computer.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
just enough time to eat a little bit of dinner, and then I come right in front of the computer. And so I'm trying to get rid of some of the balls that I'm juggling.
You're juggling. Yeah. Yeah. And I
yeah,
think sometimes there's so much pressure to keep to juggle so many balls and to keep doing things. And I love to encourage in my writing for people of all ages to remember to just celebrate who we are, not just what we do, and not think that
Right.
our value comes from what we do, but that who we are, even as we sort of celebrate Black excellence or Black girl magic and all these things, but just being ordinary Black people is a beautiful thing. And like we don't always
Hmm.
have to keep achieving to have worth, that our worth is just in us, in who we are as ourselves.
yeah, we don't have to always feel like we have something to prove
To prove,
Right.
exactly, exactly,
all the time, and
exactly.
we don't. Now, uh, now, Rhonda, I on Tuesday I intentionally make my day short before the show
Hmm.
because after the show, even though it may seem like we're just sitting talking, and it takes a lot of brain power. I mean, it really
Yeah.
does.
Well,
And
what I've started doing though is because I do a lot of work, like working on the ghostwriting project. I'm working on press releases and things like that. I've made the decision that I don't work on those things on Mondays and Tuesdays because those are my show days.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah.
um so if I know if I'm going straight from work to the podcast, I'm too tired to try to do something else afterwards. So I usually save all of that for Wednesday on. And then if people want to meet with me, like if I have to teach a class or if I have a meeting, I usually try to save those until Wednesday, like a meeting with my ghostwriting client tomorrow, because
Yeah.
I did not want to try to squeeze that in before this show.
Yeah.
Now, I
Yeah.
did meet with a client today, but that was a phone conversation that I was able to have on my way home from work, so it was easy to do that one.
But
Yeah,
that
I
means
don't
you
want
have to bring so many
you have
different
to,
things to the table
you
because,
really
like, the
do.
type of writing you do for ghostwriting is very different from writing press releases, and then the type of these
Yeah, this
conversations,
it is
like,
Yeah.
it it uh I love it because I would have never met the numbers of people that Ronnie and I have gotten to meet because of this show.
Hmm.
It's just
yeah,
really mind-boggling when you add it up because we're on the road to 800 guests. Uh, and so it's a lot of people. But what we've learned is that everybody has a story,
exactly.
and nobody's story is the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
That's whenever I visit schools or libraries, I'm always saying your story is precious. Your story has so much power and so much value. Your particular story, whenever kids are like, I don't know what to write, or I'm not really a writer, or I don't have anything to write about. You have yourself, you have your story. You have the things
Yes.
that you're interested in, the things that you care about, the things
Yes.
that you have questions about. Like those are the things that you write about.
the things that are going on around you, or things that you
Exactly.
imagine. It can be
Hmm.
completely imaginary. You
Exactly.
know, and a lot of people have done really well in this era creating other worlds.
Yes, yes.
That fantasy
Absolutely.
category is really, really taken off.
It really
And
has. Yeah.
that takes some creativity, some serious
Yeah.
creativity to just create a whole nother world with
Yeah.
people and timelines and creatures. And it's
Yeah.
that's a whole different
You
level.
mentioned that that you talk to kids and you go to libraries. So is that something that you do regularly in connection with your books, or is that just
Yes.
something
I
that you're
mean,
doing?
it
Okay.
started out because for a long time I worked in literacy. And so I start like one of my first jobs was I was a college freshman and I would go to people's homes, like knock on doors and have these and books, and I'd be like, "Oh, I can read to your children." And it was a nutrition and literacy program. So I would read to kids and then I would talk with the caregivers and parents about recipes and reading
Mm.
recipes and reading the when you go to the grocery store, sort of reading the ingredients and figuring things out. Um, and it was actually when I was doing that literacy project, we had, I was working in Harlem and the Bronx, and there were so few books that were given to us that featured children of color. And we had a couple, mostly from Just Us Books, from Cheryl and Wade
Oh yeah,
Hudson.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So those were,
No, we
I
know
cannot
them.
tell you, when my first book came out, like many, many years later, and I got to meet Cheryl and Wade, I was almost in tears. I was like, you don't understand. When I was a freshman, your books just changed my
They
life.
they were pioneers.
I
I should
mean,
say are
they
pioneers.
are. They
They've
are
been around. I
icons.
think they've been 30 something years they've been
Yeah,
published.
yeah,
They were a staple. Um, when we've had our brick and mortar store, their children's books were some of the first ones that we curated to bring
yeah,
in. And they had the alphabets and they had the ABC books and the one, two, three
yeah,
books for
yeah.
Black children. So that was their, uh, and they are still, those books are still in print.
They are still in print and still my daughter, like Bright Eyes Brown Skin, that was the book. And they just can those books continue to resonate with families and with kids and everywhere.
Yeah, they really, the Hudsons, they have really made their mark on
Yeah.
literacy and just um, Black literature overall, especially
Yeah.
for children.
Yes.
Because most of the books that they've done have been for children, I think. They've done some young adult things.
They have,
I
yeah.
think Wade did a memoir
A
kind of
beautiful
recently.
memoir. Yeah, a beautiful memoir. And I've gotten to participate in a couple of their anthologies. And my daughter actually got to participate in one of their recent anthologies too. So
Oh, okay.
they can't get rid of us.
I love that your daughter has found an interest in writing as well.
Yeah, and it's funny, she's a musician.
Okay.
She's not, well, she says she's not trying to be a writer. She's a very good writer. But I think she also has that understanding that writing can be a part of your life just because it is a way to just work through your ideas about the world and work through your ideas about yourself. And
Right.
um so different, she writes a lot of poetry. I cannot write poetry at all. Um the different types of writing just enrich your life.
Now you have won a lot of awards. You've got a lot of recognition for your books. So just tell them about some of the ones that stand out for you. You
Some
have
of
a
the ones that
long
stand
list.
out for me, getting nominated for the NAACP Image Award, that was very exciting.
Lovely.
That was very exciting for me. Operation Sisterhood, the first book, won the Black Caucus of the American Library Association Best of the Best Award. That was exciting.
Okay.
I have this Easy Reader series. This is the most recent one. It just came out like last week. Makeda Makes a Mountain. The first book, Makeda Makes a Birthday Treat, that was a School Library Journal Best of the Year award and a Bank Street School Best of the Year award. Like, I'm always happy when people read my books and share my books. And so whatever helps that happen, I appreciate.
Yeah, well, the recognition is, and then you were commissioned by the Kennedy Center to write. Was it for this book,
Yeah.
Operation Sisterhood?
For the first
A stage
Operation.
adaptation.
Yeah. That has
So,
been, I
so
mean,
what's happening with that?
okay, so we just did the first workshop back in December, right before the holiday season, where so I was writing the script, I wrote the script, we brought in a director, a dramaturg, and some fantastic actors. We had a workshop, and now that the Kennedy Center has changed,
Good way to put it.
um, the the team is still there that does the children's theater production.
Mhm.
Because I was worried about their jobs, so because I don't know what's gonna happen. Um, for me, I'm not sure. It's a tough thing. I'm not sure. I think there's just thinking about being in spaces where you know you're welcome and
Right.
respected, and where you know that the people that you want to see your show will also be welcomed and respected, and really having our stories honored. And it's not just about my play, like all the other people who may have productions or projects or things. Some people might get canceled. Some people might decide to pull their thing. So it's
It's in a state of
it's
flux
in a
for
state of,
lack of
yeah,
better term.
yeah.
Hmm.
But hopefully things will settle and it will work out.
I hope
But
so.
if not, it can always be adapted for a theater another
Yeah, there's so many
project.
theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, theater has been a passion of mine since I was really young. And it was something that my mom introduced us to. And I think it's just such a powerful form of storytelling.
Mhm.
And there's just something so special in that live audience part and that sort of interaction between the performers and the audience, and the idea of telling a story in a way where it's really for me, just working on the script was such a great learning challenge because it's a collaborative thing. So the story is not only told by the script. So I have to really make sure I understand that I'm leaving room for the director, for the actors, for the designers of the stage, and all of us are telling this story together. So it's been really a wonderful process.
Yeah, sounds like it. Now, are you wearing the Black Children's Book
Book week?
Week
Yeah,
shirt?
we just finished. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Veronica was on the show
Yes,
last
I
week.
know.
I kept looking at your shirt and I look at the colors and I said, that looks like the same color scheme for the Black
Yeah,
Children's Book Week. Well, I
she's
said, I didn't know you all were affiliated in any way.
she's
So,
doing such amazing work. I'm happy to support
Yes,
her.
I
Yeah.
agree.
yeah, I think she was going to send
Yeah,
us a t-shirt. She sent me a
yeah,
notice and I
connect
sent it
with
on.
her.
Yeah, she did. She did. So what's now this book now available?
Yes,
Or is
Operation
it
Sisterhood
okay?
Stealing the Show is
Okay.
available
Okay.
wherever you get your books,
Okay.
library, stores. Yeah.
And this Operation Sisterhood, is this an ongoing theme that you're using?
Yes. So I'm hoping, because they're four sisters, I'm hoping that there will be four books in the series. Um,
Okay.
we shall see.
Okay. And I like it because it's hardcover, even though it's a middle grade book, but
Yeah, yeah. The first
I
hardcover.
one
think those
just came.
books lend themselves well to being hardcover books, though.
Yeah,
And durable on the shelf,
Right, exactly.
you know.
yeah.
So so this is part of a series. This is book two.
This is book two.
And
Yeah, book
hopefully
one
there
is
will
in
be some
paperback
more.
now.
Oh, it's in paperback.
Yeah, book one is in
Book
paperback now.
one is in paperback
Yeah,
because this is the new one because
yeah.
the publisher sent us this, and so we did give it away. We always use trivia
Thank
to
you.
give books away, and the trivia question was, what was the Sunday's friend in the neighborhood was a TV star? What was the TV star's name?
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So someone answered it, and then one of our viewers, one of our regular, we have a regular crew that really
Right.
gets the books for the giveaways. It's like a competition.
And they
I
are
love
serious.
that.
They are
They're
serious about
serious.
you.
They
Like
they are.
I said the answer before so and so did. Did you see my
Sometimes
answer?
they say, okay, we have to go back in the chat and look and see what dropped
We have to
first.
look at the time and date stamp.
So
Love
Lydia won
that.
tonight, and Lydia Bruce, she's a regular viewer, and we're going to be sending her copy.
Oh, wonderful. I'm happy to send you some sticker. I have some stickers for the book, so I can send them to you to send on to her or something like
Cool.
Well, normally I mail them right away, but
that. Oh, okay.
what are the stickers? What's on the sticker?
The cover, and then I have little cards, one for each sister.
Okay. Well, I don't think
Oh,
Lydia would mind getting that with this. So when we are done, I'll email you the address to send it to.
okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll get them
Okay.
out.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter
Well,
TV.
thank you
And
so much for having me.
congratulations on all of your awards and publishing.
Thank you
It's
so
like you
much
have
for
an
having
award for
me.
almost every book, which is great.
That's awesome.
Great.
Well,
Wonderful.
I'm really honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me and for this conversation and for just everything that you're doing to amplify our voices and share these stories. And I know it's a lot of work and it's much appreciated.
Well, we thank you for everything that you're doing as well. Continue to motivate and inspire.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.
Well, that's it for this week. We have all of the next 3 shows are completely booked. So um, this is a busy time. We had a lot of new releases coming
Hmm.
out. And so the authors are, um, most of them, the interviews are timed with their release date, if we could, or as close to it as we could get. So
Yeah.
that's it for this week. And we'll see you next Tuesday for another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.